We cannot believe that we get to have Ashley Flowers on to Best Friend Energy. Your podcast, Crime Junkie, you started in 2017. It is one of the most listened to podcasts out there. I personally have been following you and listening to it forever. It's just amazing. It's incredible.
You are a crime junkie.
It's one of the most listened to podcasts out there. How did this happen? How'd you break through?
My best friend, my co-host Britt, had been trying to get me to listen to podcasts forever. And I kept telling her that sounds really stupid and boring. No, thank you. I had this 8-hour trip in the car. And she's like, you have to try this thing. Like, everyone's talking about it. Just listen to it. Obviously, I became obsessed. Started listening to podcasts when many people did in 2014 with Serial, because I was the crime junkie. So fast forward a couple of years, I kept waiting for somebody to make this specific show I wanted to hear. And no one was making it, and no one was making it. And then at the same time, I was on the board of directors for Indianapolis's Crime Stoppers. And I was the youngest board member by a mile. And they had asked me to do some brand awareness for them. We just need people your age to know what we are. And so I don't know, I got this idea that maybe I could do this podcast I was looking for. I felt like I'd been studying podcasts, specifically true crime podcasts, for 3 years at that point. And I could also maybe use it to do some brand awareness. So if you listen to the early episodes of Crime Junkie, they have baked in ads for Crime Stoppers.
Oh, that's so funny. I didn't think about that.
It exploded.
What do you think it was that captured people so quickly and became such a massive following for you?
Even though it felt familiar, like you had seen it before, nobody was doing our format. Even though it was two hosts, it's one person telling the story. And then, my best friend Britt really being in the seat of that audience. I think it was the first time that people in podcasting, they feel like you're talking directly to them, but it's one way. I think it's the first time it kind of felt two-way because they were hearing themselves represented in Britt.
It was like a conversation.
Yeah. We were one of the first true crime podcasts that gave people a really clear path of how to get involved and take the next step. Because it's, again, how I felt walking away from a lot of the true crime content I consumed, podcasting or otherwise. It was that is horrific. I can't believe that's happening. What do I do? And no one was answering that question. And I think giving people the call to action, they're looking for a way to get involved and to do better and to consume better. And I think we were one of the first people showing them the path to that. So Deck Investigates is a spinoff of a weekly show I have called The Deck. They have cold case playing card decks where each card is a missing or murdered person whose case is unsolved. We came across one case that was just far too big to tell in 1 or 2 episodes, and that's the murder of Darlene Hulse that happened in Argus, Indiana, which is just about an hour and a half north of where I live. And actually really close to where I grew up. And we started working with her daughters. Darlene was 28 years old. She was a stay-at-home mom, and one morning in 1984, it's 9:30 in the morning, she's getting her daughters ready. They've got to leave for a doctor's appointment. And someone comes into her home, takes her, and pulls her from her home in front of her girls, who were in the bathtub. They get out of the bath, they're running butt naked to their grandparents' house who live down the street, trying to get help. And even though they ran, got help, police got there, in that window, the man took her from her home. And she was found the next day in a patch of woods just a few miles away. She'd been murdered. One of our investigative reporters and myself spent the last year just diving into this case, trying to see if we could drum up any new information to hopefully...
I'm tell me everything. I know I need to listen to the whole...
See?
I know.
Love it.
God, you should really do podcasting about crimes.
Yeah. I'll consider.
You've inspired Joanna. Joanna thinks she's not a crime person and she's doing it wrong.
No. I think I might be. Wait. Tell me everything.
Now there is new technology. The problem that we've run into is we have found some very viable persons of interest that we think are interesting. They have gotten a partial DNA profile off of Darlene's blouse, but they're not testing it against anyone. So a partial profile, you can't upload to databases to see if there's a match, but you can do direct comparison. And they have some very clear people who are still even living within driving distance that for a few years now, they just have not taken the time to go get a swab. And so we're really trying, we have a petition, we're really trying to put pressure on the prosecutor's office to just get those swaps. I mean, when you're talking a case that's almost 39 years old, like people are dying. Like if this case is going to ever come to a resolution, it's got to be soon.
All good people here. What's it about and what was the inspiration?
They actually did want me to write nonfiction. Agents, like people from publishers, they were like, nope, like that's what people want from you. They don't want fiction from you. And I was like, well, this is what I want to write. So if we're going to do anything, like let's try this. Yeah. When I look back at like where my true crime or crime junkie journey started, it was with fiction. It was with my mom reading me Agatha Christie and Nancy Drew. And you know, I always say crime junkies aren't just listening to podcasts. They aren't just watching documentaries. Like, I think of myself as the OG crime junkie, and I'm reading every fiction mystery novel that comes out. I love a good mystery.
I'm obsessed.
I wanted to create that for our fans as well. And I don't know, I had this, like, story living in me for a long time. Kind of the premise of, like, you know, what would happen if everyone's so busy covering for each other that you, like, kind of miss the truth. And it took a lot of writing and rewriting and brainstorming. But finally, I got to the point where, because we thought, well, maybe it'd be a podcast. But I'm like, I don't want to do a fiction podcast like that. And a book just felt like the best way for this story to come to life.
Was it fun to write, or was it like, wow, what did I sign up for?
I can talk whatever I want to about how painful the process was, but I obviously did it again.
But you did it again.
You did it. It's like childbirth, right?
It's like childbirth.
You forget. You're like, oh my gosh, wasn't that the best? And then you get yourself back into it.
What I need to do this time is what I did for childbirth. My last month of pregnancy, I made myself a video, like reminding myself of like how horrible it is. I need to do that in my like lowest points, because you do, like, once the book is out there and you're signing copies and like everyone's like,
seems like a great idea.
Yeah, you're like, oh, maybe it's not so bad.
Right. What was I so upset about? What was so hard?
It all came together.
That bad. Yeah. And then you get back into something and you're like, oh, right.
Yeah.
I always say that everything we do, and I'm sure it's the same for you too, it feels like, you know, whether it's a successful podcast, a successful book, a show, a TV show, whatever it is, everything feels like an acceptance letter to Harvard. But then you're like, now I have to do the work at Harvard.
Harvard.
You know,
Now I have to
go to
Harvard.
school at Harvard.
Right.